My brother spread rumors that led to me being kicked out of the house as a teenager, and now, years later, seeing my success, my parents are demanding money. I'm 28, female, and I have a twin brother. Since childhood, our parents treated us very differently. For some reason, they were convinced that he was destined for great achievements, while I was considered an oddball simply because I preferred sports and socializing with friends over studying. Constant comparison with my brother affected my self-esteem and undermined my confidence. On our birthdays, my brother would throw lavish parties with his friends, and I was always seemingly forgotten. He often had sleepovers with friends, while I wasn't even allowed to bring friends home. I hated my childhood, and the only person who cared about me was my grandmother. She brought me my favorite sweets and occasionally gave me a bit of money so I could treat myself. Over time, this parental love for my brother turned into an emotional abuse toward me. My parents mocked my grades and hobbies. No matter how hard I tried, I could never meet their expectations of the perfect child. Although I was good at sports, they forbade me from joining clubs, forcing me to focus only on studying, like my brother. It was unbearable, and as a child, I felt helpless. Once, in my sophomore year of high school, I was punished again, this time for installing a chat app on my phone. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just using an app to communicate with friends like every other teenager. But for my parents, it was a serious breach of trust. They made a scandal, threw my things around, and even removed my bedroom door, stating I had no right to privacy as long as I lived under their roof. Instead of supporting me, my brother made things worse. Taking advantage of our parents' unfair treatment, he started lying about me, accusing me of things I didn't do to cover up his own actions. He humiliated me in front of my friends and spread rumors that I had supposedly bullied him at home because our parents loved him more. He even hurt himself to show bruises, fooling everyone with his stories. On our 14th birthday, his envy reached its peak when none of his friends attended his party. I don't know why his friends acted this way, but my friends went out for ice cream with me and I had a great day. This infuriated my brother, and in revenge, he started spreading new false rumors about me at school, portraying me as a spoiled brat. He lied to everyone that I was beating him at home out of jealousy because our parents preferred him. He would hurt himself to show bruises under his eyes or on his shoulders. The next day, he proudly went to school, displaying his injuries as proof of my supposed aggression, inventing all kinds of stories. When my parents asked about his bruises, he lied, saying he got them while playing with friends. The stories of his bruises began to spread, and people started believing his twisted version of events. Rumors spread around his school, in our school, and even my friends began looking at me with suspicion. At first, I noticed slight changes. People who used to chat with me began distancing themselves. Invitations to parties became fewer, as if someone had flipped a switch, and people started avoiding the spoiled girl accused of violence. One day, I gathered courage and asked my former best friend why things had changed between us. She told me that my brother had spread various stories about me. She described the details of the lies he had told everyone, accusing me of things I never did. I was shocked by her words. It was a mix of shock and pain, as if the ground had disappeared from under my feet. The brother I grew up with had spread lies about me, accusing me of things I would never even thought about. This betrayal deeply hurt me, leaving me with a stone in my heart and a lump in my throat. The next day, I approached him at school to talk, but he just ignored me. I begged him to stop lying about me, but he just smirked and said I deserved to be alone. I had no words because his lies and behavior began scaring me. I wanted to talk to my parents, but feared they would believe him over me. The isolation was especially painful because I'd always been open to socializing. It felt like the lies caused my brother's jealousy were destroying every connection I'd spent years building. The nasty rumors reached the teachers too. Everything felt like a dream, as if I was living in a parallel reality where my true identity was overshadowed by a sinister story created by my own brother. These rumors had gone beyond simple teenage gossip and started shaping everyone's opinions about me. These horrible rumors quickly reached the principal, and my worst nightmare became reality. The principal called me, my brother, and our parents to his office to discuss the situation. I sat there with my heart pounding wildly, hoping my brother would finally tell the truth. But instead, he escalated his lies. He directly told the principal that the rumors were true, depicting me as a bully who beat him when our parents weren't home. I couldn't believe it. I was overwhelmed by shock as my brother continued to weave his twisted story about me being angry because our parents loved him more. All of it was lies, yet he clung to his version like a leech. My mother cried listening to my brother's story, hugging him as if he were a hero. My father tried calming my brother, telling him he was brave for coming forward and promised it wouldn't happen again. Of course, I tried to defend myself, begging the principal to believe me. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of accusations, desperately trying to surface, but my brother insisted I was angry and aggressive, taking out on him every day. My mother continued crying, hugging my brother and giving me judgmental looks. It felt like I was fighting an impenetrable wall of belief in my brother's fabricated stories. The principal sternly reprimanded me, saying the school would not tolerate such behavior and this was grounds for suspension. I begged him not to suspend me, but he just shook his head, saying he couldn't overlook it. I stood there crying, trying to explain that I hadn't done anything wrong, but the principal firmly declared I would be suspended for 10 days to send a message to others. I burst into even louder sobs, practically begging him to reconsider. My parents, angry and humiliated by the situation, dragged me from the principal's office. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to prove my innocence and make him understand, but they didn't care. We left the school, and I was in a state of depression filled with humiliation and despair. When we got home, something unexpected happened. My father suddenly started packing my things. I was shocked, confused, and didn't understand what was happening. My mother asked him what he was doing, but he shouted that he couldn't allow me to live under the same roof as my brother anymore. I cried, literally kneeling, begging my brother to tell the truth, but he remained cold and indifferent. My father continued packing my belongings and threw the suitcase into the hallway. I grabbed onto my father's legs, begging him not to throw me out, but he said that someone like me didn't deserve to live in his home, adding he would ask his mother, my grandmother, if she wanted to take me. It felt like the world around me was collapsing. I stood in shock, surrounded by my scattered things in the hallway, thrown out of my own home. Eventually, my grandmother arrived. She collected my belongings, helping me load them into her car, and seated me in the front. She made sure I was buckled up, went back to our house, rang the doorbell, and when my father opened it, she started shouting at him for treating me so harshly. With determination, she warned him that if he approached me or tried contacting me again, she would involve the police or Child Protective Services, since his actions were a criminal offense, potentially punishable by jail. My mother tried to blame me, but my grandmother refused to listen. She defended me bravely, emphasizing I was just a child who didn't deserve such a harsh treatment. It was the first time I realized how strong my grandmother was. She wasn't afraid of my parents and, unlike them, believed me. We eventually drove away, leaving behind the only home I would ever known. Words can't describe the unbearable pain I felt then. I remember crying in bed, refusing food despite my grandmother's pleading. I told her what my brother had done, and she was shocked too. She convinced me she believed my versions of events, and I was happy to have at least one person in my sight. When my 10-day suspension ended, the idea of returning to school felt like stepping into a predator's den. As I walked into familiar hallways, my classmates' expressions said it all. Judgments, whispers, sideways glances, and all. False accusations still hung in the air. My brother brazenly ignored me, pretending I didn't exist. He made friends among those who believed his stories and saw him as the victim. No matter how hard I tried to share my truth, no one listened. I became an outcast, permanently marked by an unfair label that followed me everywhere: classrooms, cafeteria, hallways, and all. The looks I received were filled with disdain and distrust. I became a loner, attending classes with my head down, eating lunch alone, and going straight home after school. I had no friends, and it seemed no one wanted me around. My parents never called to check on me. My grandmother constantly reminded me it wasn't my fault and things would get better eventually. I graduated with good grades and looked forward to college, hoping for a fresh start. For the first time, no one watched my every step, compared my grades, or competed with me. I met many people and made friends who resonated with my personality. Despite emotional and physical scars from family and peers, I focused on leaving the past behind and enjoying college life. During this period, I discovered my talent for writing. I would always wanted to be a writer, but wasn't sure it could sustain me financially, so I'd previously abandoned the dream. However, needing extra income, I started freelancing as a writer. I registered on several freelance platforms, which helped me get client orders, slowly building my portfolio. Throughout college, I maintained this job and never asked my parents for money. After graduating, instead of working in an office, I decided to write full-time. My career thrived thanks to numerous clients and long-term professional relationships, allowing me to travel as a digital nomad. Traveling helped heal past wounds. Though it wasn't easy, I saved as much as possible and took risks, believing in myself. Over the years, I saw many incredible places, though much remained unexplored. The only person I truly considered my family was my grandmother, whom I adored. She was sad when I left, but she understood I needed independence. Despite my busy schedule, I always made time for her. I visited her on weekends. We often cooked together or just sat on the porch talking about my childhood or recent events. On weekends, I devoted entire days to her, helping with her household chores or accompanying her on leisurely walks to the local park. Recently, I finished one of the most significant projects of my career. Although I can't name the brand, I was incredibly lucky to write articles and product descriptions for them. After completing the project, I asked the team I worked with to leave positive reviews on my platforms, and they gladly did. I screenshot some of their reviews and posted them on my Instagram, knowing that working with such a brand was a big deal. As expected, many fellow copywriters congratulated me on my success and even reposted my stories, helping to spread the word. Thanks to this, I started receiving messages from strangers needing help with their websites. My relatives also noticed this, and some reached out to congratulate me. Eventually, the director of my college contacted me. He saw how well I was doing and invited me to conduct a seminar for students on building a career as a copywriter. I was extremely nervous as public speaking wasn't my strong suit, but I decided to take a chance and agreed. When I stood before the interested audience sharing my experience, it felt like my life had come full circle. In my speech, I talked about the difficulties I faced and how hard I would work to support myself despite tough days. Inspiring others and contributing to the writer community was incredibly rewarding. Some recordings of my speech began circulating in Facebook groups, resonating with people. It felt great to finally receive recognition for my hard work. Last week, I was invited to speak on a local TV show. It was a program about copywriting careers, and I was invited to share my experiences and insights with the audience. I was slightly nervous, but grateful for the opportunity. On the show, I talked about my journey, the importance of reviews and clients, and how simple a gratitude post could open doors to incredible opportunities. I was inspired by the chance to address a wider audience and motivate more people in this field. When the program aired, I shared some highlights on Instagram, proud of my TV appearance. This is how my relatives learned about my career success. Because my parents never told anyone about me, they didn't know I worked with famous brands and appeared on television. The news quickly reached my relatives, and from them, presumably, my parents. Just a few days later, as I was working on another project with my phone on silent, I noticed 6 missed calls from my mom. Honestly, seeing her name on my screen shocked me, as it had been many years since she'd called me. After all these years of silence, I couldn't understand why she suddenly decided to call. Reluctantly, I called her back, and she answered immediately. I asked if everything was all right, and my mom started congratulating me. My dad, likely sitting next to her, also joined the conversation. He started asking about my life and health, and I answered their questions without giving it much thought. It didn't seem strange until they began inquiring about how much I earned. I replied it wasn't their business, and my dad said we were family, and I shouldn't be shy about sharing my earnings. I told them my finances were fine. Hearing this, my mom began complaining about how tough life had been lately. I frowned, suspecting something wrong. Here is roughly how our conversation continued. Mom said, "We are retired and have long wanted to renovate our house. It's in poor condition and we have no savings left." I replied, "Okay." She continued, "Your success is giving us hope. After seeing your interview on TV today, we thought you could help us pay for the renovation." My dad added, "After all, we are family. You shouldn't hesitate to share your income with us. We really need your help." I responded incredulously, "Are you kidding? Why are you asking money from me after not speaking to me for years? I don't know what made you get in touch now. Thanks for the congratulations, but I'm not gonna help you." After this, my mom began saying I was selfish and needed to support the family. My dad added that as parents, they deserved care, and it was the least I could do for them. I was so angry that I wanted to tell them exactly what I thought. Suddenly, an idea came to my mind. Instead of arguing, I should teach them a lesson once and for all, since they decided they could use me after treating me poorly for so many years. I told my parents I was willing to help, but only under one condition. My dad curiously asked what that condition was. Without hesitation, I voiced my demand. If they wanted my help, they would have to publicly admit to relatives and friends that my brother had fabricated all those lies that destroyed my reputation. I wanted them to humiliate my brother the same way they'd humiliated me by believing his lies. I wanted them to take responsibility for their actions and recognize the pain they'd caused me. Hearing my impossible condition, my dad began hesitating, wondering if such a confession was necessary. My mom said it was unnecessary and suggested discussing everything privately without involving others. But I stood firm. This condition was non-negotiable for receiving any help they wanted from me. As tension grew, my dad raised his voice, reminding me he was my father, emphasizing it was my obligation to help family in need. My mom desperately insisted I do the right thing and help, referencing the years they'd spent raising me. I couldn't miss the irony in their sudden appeal. I reminded them of the past, of how they'd thrown me out and how my grandmother raised me, not them. They grew increasingly angry, but I firmly stated that if they wanted to restore relations and seek financial assistance from me, the truth must be publicly recognized and my brother must face responsibility. After that conversation, my parents constantly tried calling me, but I ignored them. I'm beginning to regret returning their call that day, and now I wonder, would I be a jerk if I refused to help my parents? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and now let's move to the update to see how story ended. Update 1. It's been a crazy week since I shared my story, and the support I've received has been overwhelming. I'm glad everyone agrees that I shouldn't communicate with my parents or even consider helping them after what I've done to me. The reason I gave them such impossible conditions was because I knew it would be virtually impossible for them. I know they love my brother too much, and even if they realized he lied, they would never make him endure what they did to me. Today, after my parents tried contacting me again and I didn't pick up, my dear brother sent me a disgusting message. Here's what he wrote. Hey sis, haven't seen you in ages. And honestly, every day without you has been great. I heard my mom and dad contacted you and you said some crazy condition for them. You realize they'll never agree to that, right? They never loved you and will never do anything to hurt me. I admit I lied about you 15 years ago, but it's been a long time, so stop being selfish and try to forget the past. You are unmarried and childless, so why not help them pay for the house renovations? Do the right thing and be a good daughter. This message felt like a punch in the chest. The audacity with which he dismissed my suffering and the conditions I'd set showed his complete lack of empathy. His attempt to guilt-trip me about my family status added another layer of insult. His assumption that I should prioritize their needs above my own well-being was not only insulting but highlighted how little he valued me. Upset and determined to seek justice, I realized it was the time to take matters into my own hands and reveal the truth hidden for so long. I wrote a letter to my parents and close relatives detailing the painful events of my childhood and the unfair treatment within our family. I described the oppressive atmosphere and constant comparisons to my brother. I also detailed the malicious and entirely false rumors my brother spread about me at school, which had serious consequences and damaged my reputation. I explained how my parents threw me out, and if it weren't my grandmother, I might not even be alive. At the end, I asked everyone to read the message my brother had sent me. I attached a screenshot of his admission that he'd lied. This was clear proof I hoped would expose the lies perpetrated for years. I sent the letter just an hour ago, knowing that as soon as my parents and brother read it, real chaos will ensue. Next time, I'll share how my family reacted to this letter. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. As expected, my letter created a real chaos within the family. My parents faced criticism from relatives who previously didn't know about the extent of unequal treatment and emotional abuse. Many relatives contacted me expressing they had no idea what happened and apologized for not supporting me sooner. My brother and parents bombarded me with increasingly offensive and threatening messages, so I contacted a lawyer. He sent them a cease and desist notice stating they would face serious legal consequences if they continued contacting me. That seemed to scare them, as they stopped trying to reach out afterward. My grandmother believes I did the right thing by revealing the truth and supports me fully. She is the only person who matters to me, and I'm glad she is on my side. Update 3. 2 months have passed. I'm happy to report things are going well for me. My copywriting business continues thriving professionally. I keep getting invitations to seminars and podcasts, further enhancing my reputation in this field. My relationship with my grandmother remains close. Recently, I took a small vacation to spend more time with her. She got into gardening and shared a lot about the flowers and herbs she grows. The moments spent with her, be it meals, heartfelt conversations, or simply enjoying each other's company, have become some of my most cherished memories. My family hasn't contacted me since receiving the letter from my lawyer, and I'm happy with how things have turned out. I've also started therapy, hoping it'll help heal my emotional wounds. Thanks to Dan for making me document this story. I did it just for him. So, what do you all think about this? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Personally, I'm sad that none of the relatives supported me right away. Their recent support seems somewhat insincere, although I understand not much can be expected from them. It's disappointing that friends also turned their backs during such a tough time. After all, if friends showed their true colors in tough times, were they really friends at all? Life, unfortunately, isn't just a collection of pretty sayings. Things happen. With the parents, it's all clear, but I have one question. Is kicking a child out of the house common only in the US, or does this happen somewhere else too? Let me know in the comments if you have heard of such cases locally. Maybe something interesting happened to anybody you know. I would be very happy to read if you share this story. Wait for our next videos, subscribe to our channel, and press the like button. Thanks.